Hey everyone. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating area of family law, adoption under Hindu law. We're going to break down the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956. You'll often hear it called HAMA. We'll cover the big ideas, the nitty-gritty rules, and even a major court case that changed the game. So let's get right into it.
Really, everything we're talking about today boils down to this one question. We all get what adoption means on a human level, right? It's about creating a family. But how does the law actually do that? How does it create a bond that's permanent, official, and legally unbreakable? That's exactly what we're going to figure out.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture idea of adoption, then zoom in to the legal definition. From there, we'll get into the super important rules for a valid adoption, see how those rules play out in a real case, understand the legal aftermath, and then we'll wrap it all up with a quick revision for your exams.
Okay, first things first. Before we get lost in legal jargon and section numbers, let's just talk about the fundamental idea. What is adoption trying to do? At its heart, it's about taking a social concept, family, and turning it into a solid legal reality.
This right here says it all. I want you to focus on two words, severance and integration. This isn't just about a child moving houses. The law sees it as a kind of legal surgery. It completely severs all legal ties to the biological family tree and then perfectly grafts the child onto a new one. It's so complete that it's as if they were born into that new family.
So, that's the big idea. But ideas are one thing, the law is another. So let's get specific. How does the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, or HAMA, actually define this whole process in black and white?
And there it is. The law calls it a process that makes someone the legal child of their adoptive parents. And this is the crucial part, gives them all the rights and responsibilities of a biological child. This is what gives the whole thing its legal teeth. It's not just a nice social arrangement, it's a legally enforceable fact.
So let's break that down into plain English. First, this is a formal legal act, not just a social one. A court can enforce it. Second, the parent-child relationship it creates is permanent. There's no undo button. Third, it means those old family ties are legally gone. And finally, it's a two-way street. The child gets rights like inheritance and care, but the parents also get the legal rights and duties of being a parent.
Okay, now we're getting into the really critical stuff, especially for those of you with exams. Think of this as the legal checklist. For an adoption to be valid under HAMA, you have to tick every single one of these boxes. Let's walk through them.
The entire legal framework for a valid adoption rests on these three pillars. It's actually pretty logical. First, does the person giving the child away have the legal right to do so? Second, is the person taking the child legally allowed to adopt? And third, is the child themselves actually eligible to be adopted? If any one of these pillars is shaky, the whole adoption could be challenged and, well, come crashing down. Now this is where the details really matter. Let's look at who can adopt. The baseline for both men and women is the same. You have to be of sound mind and not a minor. Simple enough. But then things get different. For a married Hindu man, his wife's consent is absolutely essential. It's not optional. For a Hindu woman, her capacity often depends on her marital status. If she's unmarried, a widow, or divorced, she has full capacity. It's a really interesting window into how the law viewed the family structure back then.
And what about the child? What are the rules for them? Well, first off, the child has to be a Hindu and can't have been adopted before. You only get one legal adoption. Then we have two big ones. The child must be under 15 years old and unmarried. But, and this is a really important but, the law makes an exception if a specific custom or tradition allows for it. So there's a little bit of flexibility built in.
So we have all these rules, but rules on a page are one thing. How do they actually work in the real world when things get messy? That's where case law comes in. Let's look at a landmark case to see the law in action.
Let's talk about Son Ram v. Kalawanti. The situation was this. A widow adopts a son after her husband has passed away. The big legal question was, is this child now the son of the widow only, or is he also considered the son of her deceased husband? The Supreme Court came up with a brilliant answer. They said the child becomes the child of both parents. And to make this work, they introduced a concept called the relation back theory. It's like a legal time machine. The law pretends the adoption took place a moment before the husband's death. This is so important because it means the child can legally inherit from his adoptive father's estate. A complete game changer.
Okay, so all the rules have been followed, the adoption is valid. What happens next? This section is all about the ripple effects, the permanent, life-altering legal consequences for everyone involved.
This slide lays out the dramatic before and after. Look at the left side. In their birth family, the child had full rights, including the right to inherit property. Now look at the right. After adoption, all of those rights and obligations are completely severed. Gone. They can no longer claim inheritance from their birth family. In exchange, they gain all of those rights in their new adoptive family. It's a complete legal transfer. One fascinating little detail, though, is that even though they move families, the rules about who they can't marry from their birth family still apply. In the eyes of the law, it is a total and complete rebirth into a new family.
Okay, deep breath. We have covered a lot of ground. So if you're studying for an exam or just want to lock in the main points, this next slide is for you. This is your screenshot moment, your cheat sheet.
Let's do a rapid-fire review. What do you absolutely need to remember? 1. Adoption creates a permanent legal bond. 2. It's all governed by HAMA, 1956. 3. Validity hinges on the capacity of the giver, the taker, and the child. 4. A wife's consent is non-negotiable for a married man. 5. The child has to be under 15 and unmarried unless custom says otherwise. 6. The Sawin-Ram case gave us the relation back theory. And 7. All ties with the birth family are cut, and the child gets full rights in the new family. Got it? Good.
And that brings us to the end, but I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. This law, HAMA, was written way back in 1956. It's based on some very specific ideas about family, gender roles, and society. So the big question for us today is this: how well do these rules from over half a century ago fit the reality of the modern, diverse, and ever-changing Indian family? It's something worth thinking about. Thanks so much for joining me.